you go. Okay, everyone, back. Uh, Blood to Learn is back. Yes, we have taken a sabbatical for a couple of weeks, but I guess we are back with a bang now. So we got an awesome guest today. Thanks, Ganga, for joining us. And if you don't know about Ganga, probably Falguni can give a better description. But for me, as I know it, Ganga has been an ad veteran, and she has been in the industry for almost or more than 18 years now. And before I get started on it, first I want to congratulate Soho Square today because I saw them getting shortlisted in the top 10 agencies. So congratulations to you and your team, Ganga. Hey, sorry for the power. Yeah.
Congrats, Ganga. That's great news.
Thank you. And Ogilvy is number one, of course.
And over to you, Falguni. You can do the honors and get started.
Yeah. Thanks, Malar. Hi, everybody. Hi, Ganga. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much, first of all, for accepting the invitation and taking time for us here, because we know what kind of hectic lives you lead there. So this is Falguni from Ahmedabad, and I am a professor in advertising at MICA. So I think the first introduction of Ganga should be, she is a MICAN. She is a very senior MICA alumni. The first batch or second batch, I'll leave it to you, Ganga, for you to clarify. You are a second batch MICAN?
Third batch.
Third batch MICAN, yeah. So she's a third batch MICAN, a senior alumni of whom we are very, very proud because of the kind of work that she is doing. She has worked with Ogilvy right now. She has Soho Square, and she's majorly working in the digital space. So I believe this is a very, very interesting topic that you have given, traditional thinking in digital times. So over to you, Ganga, if you can tell a little bit more about yourself, the kind of brands that you work on, and then maybe we'll take the topic a little later.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah. So like you said, third batch MICA, 18 years in the industry, of which I think I took a 5-year break from active advertising and spent time with in the analytics space. And I think I did that right time when digital was really booming in India. So being in a company that had access to a lot of tech platforms, etc., helped me understand how this could be used to really augment what we did, what was earlier called traditional marketing. Today, I think the line between traditional and digital have really blurred, because it's only about being able to drive impact and result. But I think I was lucky that I was able to get that experience and exposure, and that is what I try and implement in what I do in my job today. So today I head Soho Square in Bangalore. Soho Square, for those who don't know, is Ogilvy's conflict. Our biggest clients are Himalaya, Herbals, AirAsia, Bangalore Airport, and a couple of other brands that are in the mix. I've also worked on brands like IBM and Lenovo. While it's something that not everybody probably is very comfortable with, offers us a fantastic opportunity to really apply a lot of data-led thinking in the whole digital, in the communication space, really.
In fact, that's very, very interesting, because I think the whole world is talking about big data, analytics, but there are only a few people still in the industry who really understand and are making the most use of, I think, whatever data is in front of you. So there are only a few agencies who are using analytics in a big way, right? So we are very happy that you are here because you are the right person. So if you can share a little bit of your idea about what went through when you gave us this topic. You said you'd love to speak on traditional thinking, digital times. Can you deconstruct it for us?
Yeah. So I think fundamentally what all of us in the field are realizing is that while yes, digital and social and content seem to be the buzzword, the fundamentals haven't changed at all. And if we don't keep the fundamentals in mind and just go after reach and engagement and metrics that really define what this new world is, the marketing effort isn't going to be successful at all. the fundamentals of understanding what the business objectives that you want to achieve are, understanding who to talk to are, understanding how you segment these different audience groups, and really present the message in a way that they're able to engage with you and drive to a certain call to action is extremely important. A lot of times, you hear briefs or you hear projects being kicked off with saying, to a viral video. Now, a viral video cannot be the objective of communication.
Right.
Right? The objective has to be to drive engagement, to drive conversions, to drive somebody to buy more, change their behavior, change their perception. And that's exactly what marketing has been doing for decades now. So, right? So I think a lot of times we encounter young people who want to work in the digital space and do not want to be in what they call traditional advertising. We also find agencies that are focused on digital. I don't intend to downplay the work that they are doing, but if you don't have rigorous thinking in place, just digital advertising and content marketing isn't really going to go very far.
Yeah. So what you're saying makes perfect sense. But while you were saying, I think this thought came to my mind, that how easy it is to convince the client that it's not about making a topic trend on Twitter, or it's not about, million likes on your post, or it's not about, having followers on Instagram, but ultimately it boils down to, how much business of the brand is being built up by communication. How difficult or how easy it is for you to talk to clients on this?
So I would say finally clients who own the market also.
That's a catch-22 situation, Falguni. It's usually, I know how it goes.
And Ganga's expression says it all, but still I like you to say.
See, I would say finally, who doesn't want to be famous, right? I want to be famous. If one tweet can do that for me, why not? I want 1,000 people to see my commercial on the day it's launched. And if just putting it out on all the digital platforms can make it happen, why not? But ultimately, marketers, even those who want quick fame, will ultimately get judged for the returns that their investments drive. Which is why it's so important to have effectiveness measures in place even before you launch a campaign. So when you put a piece of content on air, and by content, I'm saying it's, media agnostic, it could be across any platform, how will the return on this investment be measured? And as long as there is clarity on that, I think it's really easy to carry everybody through. The challenge is when you end up doing things in succession without really thinking about what the next 2 or 3 steps are. If the end result has been clearly defined right in the beginning, it's very easy to ensure that the entire effort is aligned.
Right.
So Ganga, sorry Falguni, I'm just picking up.
No, please go ahead.
So Ganga, would you blame the agency for that or a brand for that? Because see, somewhere the brand doesn't know, right? So the agencies have told them that, okay, you give us 10,000 rupees, I'll give you 10,000 likes, right? And then the engagement part or the ROI of the entire investment is never talked about. The ROI is only, I will give you likes, I will give you virality in whatever form. So whom should we blame? Is it the agencies or a brand, or it's both?
So I'd say blame is a very strong word. And
I know.
Ultimately, what is bringing the entire quality of communication and engagement down today is the fact that everybody works in silos. And none of these are really talking to each other, right? And it would be unfair to say that the silos exist on the marketing side or the client side or the agency side. It's true everywhere. The fact that people are pushing their own agendas is probably because there is no top-down view that says you will be measured on how well your effort integrates with the rest of the marketing side. As long as that vision doesn't change, as long as that doesn't become the top-down mandate, we'll all continue chasing our own P&Ls without worrying about or without being concerned about how really the whole thing comes together. For example, to give you a really extreme case, right? What about customer experience? That is a very, very important touch point in the way of customer service. That's a very important customer touch point. But as marketers and advertisers, do we even think about it? Do we worry about whether what we've defined as our marketing message is aligned to the customer service folks who are going to be at the end of the phone and talk to you? If as marketers or communicators we're able to drive that kind of holistic message home, I think it'll really make everybody's lives much easier, and we won't have to look for people to blame.
So on the other part, what I have seen is probably in my experiences, like when the brands approach agencies, the brand managers, the CMO is probably a 60-year-old guy, right? He hardly knows what digital is, or they come with their own ideas of digital. So is that also one of the challenge where agencies have to go back, educate what really digital is and what they can achieve for a brand?
At least in the
that's
India
a traditional versus digital thinking. That's where I wanted to bring.
So in the India context, I don't think that's so true anymore. I've seen some of that happen globally in really large and old companies. But in India, I think we are ahead of the curve, at least in terms of thinking and knowing what we want to do. Whether we are able to implement it very often or not, remains to be seen, because yes, the focus is still on, how much reach will my TV give me and what is the remaining budget that I can put on digital. But I think today everybody is aware of what needs to be done. Having said that, and since you bring up CMO, that is definitely one of the most challenging roles in today's corporate world. Some trivia that I read some time ago said that the average life of a CMO today has become 9 months or lesser, which means the pressure on this to deliver results is so high. Marketing is the biggest cost in an organization. They are the most visible. They seem to be walking away with all of the budgets. And therefore, if they're not able to enable sales to sell more, if they're not able to drive great customer engagement, it's a CMO's, neck that's on the block.
So I have probably seen, say, marketing shifting from a cost center to a revenue center. So do you see the same trends also in other, so probably for me as a B2B guy, I have seen how marketing has been shifting from traditionally a cost center to more of a revenue generation role. Do you see other brands or other industries also going on the similar way?
Yes. And like I said, it's because of the budgets that are at stake. It's no longer possible to think of marketing as playing an evangelizing role. Nobody has the patience or time for that anymore, right? And therefore, companies where marketing and sales are closely integrated definitely perform much better. There was a time when marketing had to carry a certain weight of sales. So you would say 15% of sales needs to be enabled by marketing. But that time the problem was attributing a certain sale to marketing. How do you say which message or which media or which touch point really led to the sale? So today I think companies are realizing that that's not a realistic approach to take at all. And therefore, when marketing and sales work closely together, there is no question of having to attribute sales to one department or the other. But again, and I'm thinking aloud here, a lot of times the sales organization probably becomes, or the sales department probably becomes more visible, more powerful. And the challenge there then becomes about driving traditional marketing rigor with what is dominantly the sales team. Right? Because it's easiest, most tempting to say, just go and tell people what I sell. Tell them that I have the best shampoo. Now, customers don't have the time, or they're not even going to, it's not going to be a credible enough message unless you say, what is the need at the customers, what is the need that that I can satisfy? What is it that the customers want? And how do I package it in a way that my offering becomes desirable? So for me, that I see as the bigger challenge than having to attribute between, market and sales.
All right. So, probably people who have just joined in or who have been here, you can use the chat window on your right and ask question to Ganga. And also you can probably share some the clips across your Twitter or LinkedIn. You can do that on the left. There is a share last 30-second thing. And do be generous with all those props there, so ensure that you have given enough props to Ganga, right? So over to you, Falguni.
I had a question related to your I think recently you were talking about people working in silos and lack of integration, right? So the related question was that, do you think that because now there is a client who works with an advertising agency, he works with a social media agency, there's another digital agency who is going to do some other job, media has moved out of advertising agency space, so there's a media agency which is handling the brand. So do you feel that because of too many people and too many stakeholders getting involved in the process, we are moving away from the old school thought of integrating or giving one voice to the brand?
So I would take a step back and say it's not happening only with agencies, it's also happening in marketing organizations. Because even in the marketing organization, there is a brand manager who's supposed to be able to be, he needs to be empowered across all media. But at the same time, there is someone who's a PR specialist, there is a digital media specialist, social media expert, and each of them in turn end up working with different departments within an agency, or God forbid with 10 different agencies, right? And while yes, it might sound easy for me to say this because I'm on the agency side, we find that a lot of times it is the marketing team that needs to take onus of this and hold everyone together.
Right.
By that, I do not mean that they have to work really hard to integrate everyone's point of view. It can be as simple as saying, come back to me in one meeting. I don't care if you're from 10 different agencies. You all need to think as one about my brand and come back to me with one point of view. Some brands like IBM seem to be able to do a good job of this, but again, it depends on client to client. And we found that when clients enforce this and don't give you a choice, of course, the agencies will all work together. And it's not as if all of different languages, right? All of us know each other. We've been in the industry long enough. So if we put our hearts to it, it's certainly possible.
Correct. And I think next question was directly linked with your topic that you've given. So with people going gaga about digital, they're getting things viral, getting things trending, I think the traditional effort space is shrinking. So people are making less and less efforts, which were all old school, if you think. So like, for example, the amount of importance we give to marketing research, for example, or spending a day with the consumer to understand the consumer more. So these are all old school traditional efforts which were needed to build a good campaign or to come to that great consumer insight. So any other areas which you would like to stress on, which people should continue focusing on, even though they are old school, because they will make your digital more relevant?
So one is, I don't completely subscribe to the traditional idea of research because it's rather right.
No, I'm not saying traditional idea. I'm saying importance that we give to research, for example, is very, very high, right?
Yes. So my question today is, moving with the times, are there different ways of doing research?
Correct.
Right? So social media listening, of course, it sounds like such a cliche term because we've been hearing it for so long. But the value that it can drive is unprecedented. It takes the effort, it takes lesser money to listen to what thousands of people or thousands of posts might be saying about us. Sure, it takes a very, it takes clever structuring of the research to make sure that it gives us the information that we can. So yes, figuring out when to use research is important. I'd rather use research at the stage of defining what customer needs are, rather than using research to put a script in front of 10 people and say, what does this do? Will you go and buy my product if I make a film like this? The other way of doing it is, say, once content is made, do you want to expose it to a set of people and measure what it does to them? And today there are many interesting ways of doing that. There's neural research, all of that clients are investing in. So that should open up newer ways of understanding how communication work. The other thing would be, like I said, investing in social. Social can give you an ongoing stream of research and insights if done properly. And, we should be able to figure how to really implement all of that.
Yeah, because why I asked this question, because I remember in one of our previous interactions on campus, you did mention that how you will force your team members to spend some time on field. Whichever way they want, whichever method they want to adopt, it's up to them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, he was in the field last week itself in the sweltering Chennai heat. And, what a visit to a household where these people are willing to open up their cupboards and show you all of their personal care, and toiletries, and how they use it is fantastic. Sitting in our ivory towers, otherwise, it's so easy to imagine that a face wash will be placed next to the wash basin and you'll wash or use it every time, you're going out or coming back. While you find that a face wash is actually kept inside a cupboard because the mother doesn't want the kids to waste this tube of face wash. My opportunities to use it are also lower. I might use it twice a week. So how then will my product work the way it is, meant to do? The other thing that I feel we're not doing enough of is, and that's also a function of how perceptions of advertising has changed. At one time, advertising was an offbeat career choice, right? And therefore, the women also were very different. They were well-read, well-educated. They might have been public school dropouts, but the kind of exposure they had to pop culture, and the arts was fantastic. Today, that I feel is something that advertising is really lacking. And if you're not able to hire people like that anymore because they're going off into more exciting spaces, what can we do to enable the people who are here to really continue, that line of thinking? So that for
that's
me
a very
is
important
kind of research. Saying how have art styles evolved over time? Where are we today? What kind of style is, which kind of brand? So it shouldn't just have to be about what customers are saying and what my brand needs to say.
So of course I'm being a little more greedy when I'm asking, but not keep the confidentiality part intact, but any brand, any insight that you can share with us, which is already out in media, maybe the TVC or the digital campaign is out. I believe the Himalaya TVC is out.
Yes.
Yeah, so something on that, if today only you had posted, I guess.
Correct, I posted. I don't know how relevant it is to our topic, but Himalaya is a brand, all of us who work on it are very, very proud of, because it's a young brand. And I think the biggest achievement there was how we built up an entire category in India, and the film I posted to these washes. So there was a time 9 years ago where this category didn't even exist. And what Himalaya managed to do is, I think, identify a very sharp need and stay focused on that, which has really helped us build the entire category. So while we are talking to young girls, we're talking to 13, 14-year-olds. And obviously, they're a lot more current than, people like us who are making the communication are. But the rigor of understanding who these people are, what their needs are, ensuring that communication stays consistent, knowing that I'm going to recruit the entrants into this category, and therefore what I say and how do I say it, has remained the same. So the principles that Ogilvy applies today in that sense would be the same that we've applied over the past few decades of brand building in India.
So any interesting method of research you adopted to understand this 14-year-olds?
In this case, I have to say, unfortunately not, but we do a lot of customer contacts. So we constantly talk to these people. Of course, there are youngsters on the team. I'm sorry, I don't have an exciting answer.
Okay, that's okay, that's okay. Mallar, any question you have?
Right. So I was going through the previous conversation where Ganga told that the advertising as a field, now it is kind of, it's very easy entry. Probably any person who knows social is kind of a digital marketer, right? Anyone who can tweet is a digital marketer. Anyone who can write a Facebook post is a digital marketer. Do you think that has kind of affected the quality of campaigns we see now? How can you relate it back to the traditional thinking and how it was done traditionally earlier than it is being done right now?
So there are two ways of looking how digital gets executed. There are times when digital might be your focus media, and that's what you're spending all your effort on. And there are other times when a brand has the money and the vision to really invest in traditional media, and digital therefore becomes a support, or it reinforces or even amplifies what you might be saying in digital media. And like I said before, any campaign that doesn't have its objectives and its measurement framework in place right at the beginning will always end up being very shallow. So you will end up gathering a lot of likes, but likes rarely convert to anything more than that. I keep saying likes is the laziest way of telling a brand that I've noticed you.
Absolutely.
Nothing beyond
Absolutely.
that. Right?
Absolutely.
So, like, if I did a print ad, I would have a call to action that said, call this number, or, fill up this form in the old days. What are we doing in the digital space that drives you to click and, do something more than just enjoy? It could be as simple as sharing so that you amplify my voice, or it could be about going into a microsite and engaging with me the way I want you to.
Hey, fantastic. I guess we have two more minutes, Falguni. Yeah, so
I thought we should open it up for the audience. Yeah, anybody from the audience would like to ask a question, you can also join us live. There is a fourth seat which is available. You can join us.
All right. Okay. While we wait, there was something on my mind. I kind of.
So I was asking about. Again, sorry for stretching the Himalaya case, but since this is an interesting age group, see, these are not your 20 plus, these are not your 10, 11, but you are talking to 14 to 16-year-olds. So which out of the digital platforms works the best for them?
So not many digital platforms per se, because these kids have restricted access to social media. Right. So if I were to use social, the way I would do it is to really target the influencers who can then take the message back to the girls. So while a 13-year-old should not be on Facebook, and I'm saying that because I'm also a mother, is there a way for me to target an older sister or a young mother to say, your daughter probably needs specialized care, and therefore this is a set of products available for her?
Yeah. Okay. There's a question from the audience, and Ganga, this is a Maikan asking you a question. Considering the success of Pulse Candy Bar, which was mostly on word of mouth publicity, how relevant is digital marketing?
Finally, digital marketing is also word of mouth, right? It's just that what I do on social media, talk to you in the absence of being able to do it physically. And that's what technology has done. It has really enabled us to reach out to many more people than we could have otherwise. And what a brand would have relied on for word of mouth in the earlier days, by providing an exciting product or creating a controversial ad, is what we're able to do through social today.
Like I'm telling you, Ganga, the first time I had Pulse, I had tweeted with so much of euphoria that I am 100% sure at least 10 people tried. So I think that was the digital space.
So that was the digital marketing. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was.
Right. So final question. Almost there. So final question for me would be like, we see this advent of the newer platforms. You name it, Periscope or something like this one, Blab and Snapchat. Do you think brands are ready for more platforms right now, or they should still hold back, ensure that they have already gained more experience on the current platforms and then move to newer platforms? There are two school of thoughts. Say, be where your audiences and be proliferate at the current platform. So what do you suggest?
I would say it depends on the audience that you're speaking to and the size of the numbers really that you're reaching out to. If you're talking to really niche audiences that have already started adopting a platform, if you have a new product or a new service and you're talking to the innovators who would also have adopted newer digital technology, of course you should go on to the new platforms. But if you're talking about the masses, if you're talking to people who we otherwise would have used TV to reach out to, I would say Twitter, Facebook, and maybe LinkedIn are what you really need to focus on in India today. Because the lesser we, spread ourselves, the more we are able to focus, the more we are able to drive numbers. And at the end of the day, social works for us only based on amplification. So what's the point going to a platform that might only have 100 people versus, a Facebook that has millions?
Right.
All right. Perfect. Yeah. So that was it from my side, Falguni.
That was wonderful, Ganga, and I hope you also enjoyed talking to us. Did you?
I had no idea what to look forward to when you asked me to do this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Before we go, Ganga, where can people follow you? How can they know more about you and where they can connect with you?
So I'm Ganga PG at Twitter and Ganga Ganapati on LinkedIn. Those two are the best public platforms to connect with me on.
All right, perfect. And people who
I
have just
typed it here,
yeah. Okay, there's a little typo there.
I corrected. In nanosecond, Malhar, I corrected. So this is my husband's laptop. So every time I try to type A, my finger goes on S.
Should always
my laptop is in office.
In Falguni.
Cool, great. And people who want to continue the conversation beyond this platform, we have a Facebook group where you can still continue the conversation over the rest of the week. The group is here on the comments. You can join us and probably continue the rest of the discussion over that group as well. And thanks, Ganga, for joining us. It was so good to have you here, and probably we picked your brains a lot. So thanks for sharing all the information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'll follow the rest of your weekly events.
Please join us on our Facebook page, and we'll keep reminding you to join.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everybody who participated. You can also see the YouTube recording, which Malhar will soon post on our page. So join the page to remain posted on that. And thank you so much, Ganga, for joining us. Great insights, and was lovely talking to you like forever. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, Falguni.
Bye, Malhar.